Welcome to the Window Wisdom Podcast, your guide to replacement windows and more. Hi, I'm Ted Kirk, your host, and this is episode 2 of Window Wisdom. So today we're going to be talking about window types. There's so many types and brands out there, but before we start there, let's talk about why folks are replacing their windows. This may seem obvious, but there's really 3 primary reasons that windows get replaced. They no longer look good. This can be a result of seal failure, foggy windows, rot, mildew. Maybe they need painting, a glazing. Second reason, they no longer work. If they're stuck, leaking water, those type of things, and that can be dangerous because of egress, and that means that you need to be able to escape from your window if there was an emergency, or somebody needs to be able to rescue you if there was an emergency. So, and the third reason is they no longer keep your home comfortable and cozy. So these drafts that you feel in the winter, high energy bills, maybe your windows are too hot to sit in front of in the summer. So the good news is you have options. The bad news is you have options. So we're going to talk about some of these various options that you have when it comes to replacing your windows. And what I'd like to do is just give you a few pros and cons of each type. The most common window that you're going to find out in the replacement market is vinyl. Vinyl is a plastic window, polyvinyl chloride, and it's what they call a thermoplastic material. And the problem with thermoplastic materials is they have a tendency to change shape when they're exposed to extreme temperatures. That means that they could soften, they can melt, sag, or deform. In the cold, they can become brittle and break. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The other thing is, from a structural standpoint, these windows have to have thicker frames with multiple chambers to have a stability about them. So you tend to lose a lot of glass space. You could lose a lot of your view and the light coming into your home. And unfortunately, a lot of companies will not share that information with you. But there is a good thing about them is these windows are cheap. They're pretty inexpensive to buy. You can buy them in standard and custom sizes, and relatively inexpensive to install because of the process that is used to put the windows in. So moving on from there is probably one of our most common windows that's used across the country is made of wood. Wood is actually a pretty good insulator. It's easy to change color, so it's got a tendency to be able to be repainted. But that's also one of the negative aspects of it. It tends to be a higher maintenance item. It's an organic material, so it can also shift in different temperatures. You can find it harder to open during different times of the year, or sometimes it may be sagging down. And eventually, most wood windows have to be replaced. So a lot of times what wood window manufacturers have kind of progressed to is a wood clad window. You still have to finish the interior of these windows, but on the outside they'll use a less maintenance option like vinyl. Aluminum's probably one of the most common materials used on the outside. I've seen them with fiberglass, just different materials on the outside to kind of protect it a little bit more. These tend to be a little bit more expensive than just your traditional wood or vinyl. Along the lines of the same family of vinyl windows, you have what we call PVC windows that are milled PVC. They look a little bit more like traditional wood windows, but these are also part of that thermoplastic category, so they don't hold up to the heat real well. They are required to paint, but you cannot paint these dark colors because they do draw the heat in and they will warp on you. Another type of window material out there is Fiberglass. It's a vinyl wood composite. It is also a thermoplastic. It's got some of the pros and cons of both the wood and the vinyl that we talked about. Metal is another type of window, steel, but primarily aluminum is used more so in commercial applications and residential applications. And people like this for the aesthetic point of view a lot of times with the thin black or bronze frames. But the problem with metal is it's not a very efficient material. So lower maintenance, but susceptible to condensation just because of the thermal conductivity of it. And this brings us to our last primary window material, which is fiberglass. And this is absolutely our favorite window material of all. Fiberglass is what we call a thermoset material. So it's a material that's cured and hardened into a shape, and this process is irreversible. So it holds up to the extreme temperatures very well. It stays tight and true over time. And, the good thing about it is it is a more structurally stable material, so it can be used, less frame. You tend to get a little bit more glass, a little bit more view and daylight into your home. Probably one of the biggest negative drawbacks of it is it's a little bit bigger investment, but we've always felt like, if you do it right, do it one time, you never have to do it again. But again, you're going to invest a little bit more in the fiberglass windows. Keep in mind with all of these different types of windows, no matter what you choose, that none of these windows will perform to their fullest potential without proper installation techniques. And that includes the materials that are used in these installation techniques as well. So we look forward to covering that in a later podcast, and we thank you for listening.